in the small countryside town of Willowbrook, just a mile from the nearest village and 2 miles from the sparkling Maple River. The Hanson family lived in a large, old house surrounded by vibrant flowers and grand, ancient trees. It was a Thursday morning in August, and Anna, the housekeeper, stepped in from the garden. Anna was a tall, broad woman of 28 years, and despite the blazing heat, she wore a thick, dark green skirt and a pale blue blouse. After a while, she made her way into the kitchen for a refreshing glass of water. Just then, the phone rang. Anna lifted the receiver and answered with a pleasant, "Hello, Willowbrook 526. Hi, this is Beth. Can I speak to Mom?" Came the voice on the other end. "Mom's at the doctor's office right now," Anna replied, trying to keep her tone light. "Oh, is something wrong?" Beth asked, sounding slightly worried. "No, nothing serious," Anna assured her. "Why are you calling?" "I wanted to confirm if I should come home for the weekend. Mom mentioned that everyone would be here," Beth explained. "But I need a bit of help. I don't have enough money for the train." Anna took a deep breath. "Beth, you always need money. Mom's always helping you out." Beth's tone turned cold. "I know this call costs a lot, Anna. Just tell her I need the train fare, all right?" Without another word, Beth hung up. Anna put the phone down, feeling the familiar frustration rise. Beth was only 21, the youngest in the Hanson family, living alone in a small room in London. She was aspiring to become a singer, but struggled to find steady work. Anna returned to the kitchen, thinking about the conversation with Beth. She started preparing a few sandwiches with the back door opened, and her mother, Helen, stepped inside. Helen was tall and elegant, with dark hair and kind, expressive eyes. Following closely behind her were two friendly brown dogs, who immediately bounded to her side. "Goodness, it's hot today," Helen remarked, removing her wide-brimmed hat and setting it on the table. "Mom," Beth called. "She wants some money for her train ticket," Anna said, placing the sandwich on the table. Helen sighed, sitting down with her hands resting gently on the heads of her beloved dogs. "I suppose she'll need it," she murmured, but then added with a little firmness, "This afternoon, I need you to get the house in order for the weekend. Also, could you go to the village and pick up my medicine?" "Yes, Mom," Anna replied. Helen was just heading to the door when Anna hesitated. "Mom, please wait a moment," she said. "Paul Johnson came by this morning. He's very upset about a letter you sent to his office. He lost his job because of it, and he really wants to talk to you about it." "I don't need to talk to him, Anna," Helen said, dismissing the thought as she continued to the door. "But Mom, you don't understand. He's only 19, and it was his first job. He's furious. He even said he's going to get back at you somehow." Helen didn't respond, leaving the room and closing the door behind her. By Saturday evening at 7, the family had gathered for a special dinner. Anna looked out the window and saw a car approaching slowly. Pulling up to the front door, a man with silver hair stepped out. It was Uncle Jack, Helen's brother-in-law. "Here's Uncle Jack," Anna called out, always arriving late. She went to the door to greet him. "Oh dear, sorry for being late," Uncle Jack said apologetically as he stepped inside. He looked at Helen. 50 years old today, eh? That's a wonderful dress you're wearing." Helen gave a slight nod. "Thank you, Jack," she said, her expression neutral. "Everyone's here now. Let's go in for dinner." They all gathered around the table, and Uncle Jack remarked, "The table looks amazing, Anna, and these flowers are just beautiful." Seated across from Jack was Beth, who wore a striking red dress. She was a young woman with long, wavy black hair and piercing dark eyes. "The table is really lovely, Anna," she repeated, giving her old sister a quick, approving smile. Beside Beth sat Matthew, Helen's only son. He lived in a stylish apartment in Willowbrook and had a good job in town. During dinner, Uncle Jack mentioned casually, "On my way here, I ran into someone named Paul. He seems quite upset with you, Helen." "Oh, that's Paul Johnson from the farm next door," Anna quickly interjected. "He lost his job recently and seems to be angry with everyone." "He seems especially angry with you, Helen," Jack commented, glancing at her with mild curiosity. Helen remained silent, focusing on her meal. Trying to ease the tension, Anna asked, "How is Aunt Mary doing, Uncle Jack?" "She's not well, I'm afraid," Jack replied. "She's in bed most of the time now and needs care around the clock. It's very hard and quite costly, too," he added, looking pointedly at Helen. "She really misses you, you know. You're her little sister, after all." Helen closed her eyes momentarily, her expression unreadable. "I know, Jack. I may be 50, but I'm still her little sister," she said quietly. Jack laughed a bit awkwardly. "Yes, yes. We can talk about it later, can't we? Seems everything's always later with you, Helen." Anna watched her mother closely, sensing her discomfort. Helen didn't like to discuss her sister's failing health, let alone visit her in that state. To shift the topic, Anna looked at Beth. "That's a lovely dress, Beth. Is it new?" Beth smiled and nodded. "Yes, I bought it last Tuesday. It was quite expensive," she admitted, with a satisfying grin. "All your things are costly, Beth," Anna replied, recalling the phone call about the train ticket. "I don't care for cheap things," Beth shrugged. "And actually, I'll need some extra money soon. I'm planning a trip to New York. Will you help, Matt?" "Oh, no way," Matthew replied, laughing. "We all know you're not fond of working, Beth. We just want to see you get a job for once." Beth chuckled. "That's right, Matt. Mom will help me. She loves me best, after all." Anna noticed her mother's face turned pale, her expression slightly uneasy. Was Helen really afraid of Beth? Anna didn't understand, but she wanted her mother to feel happy tonight. Trying to lift the mood, she offered, "Uncle Jack, would you like some more meat?" She then turned to Matthew. "Could you pour some more wine, please?" Matthew got up to fill their glasses. "This wine is excellent," he noted, taking a sip. "Yes," Helen smiled, her eyes softening for a moment. "Your father used to love this wine." "Quite pricey, too, I imagine," Jack commented, raising an eyebrow. Anna quickly asked, "Mother, would you like to meet Mr. Brown this weekend? He's the new manager at the farm, and he's eager to meet you." "Brown?" Helen's face clouded with irritation. "I don't like that man. He's always asking for more land for his farm and even asked me to give him a part of my garden. I don't want him here. He's messy and has poor manners." Anna didn't want to upset her mother any further. She stood up and took a cigarette from her bag. "Excuse me for a moment," she said quietly, stepping outside for a quick smoke. Helen frowned. "Always a cigarette in your mouth, Anna. You know it's not good for you." Anna felt a twinge of irritation, but held back her response. She only wanted her mother to be content this evening, but it seemed challenging to keep the peace. Matthew, trying to lighten the mood, said, "Maybe Mr. Brown has a point about the garden, Mom. It's quite a bit for you to handle alone." "I don't need anyone's help," Helen replied sharply. I work in that garden every day, and it makes me feel alive." Rising from the table, Helen said abruptly, "You all just come here for a free dinner. None of you care about me. You just want my money and my house. Well, you're all going to wait because no one is getting anything until I'm gone." Anna's heart sank. "Don't say that, Mother," she pleaded. Helen brushed her off, saying she was feeling unwell and heading to bed. After she left, no one moved for a while. Beth, her voice barely above a whisper, said coldly, "One day, I'm going to make her pay for this." Matthew glanced at her, saying nothing, while Uncle Jack simply shook his head, muttering, "She's just upset. Helen always gets worked up over money." Anna finished her cigarette, then stood up. "Would everyone like some coffee? Let's continue in the kitchen." Early the next morning, the house was still when a loud cry came from Helen's bedroom, the room adjacent to Matthew's. Startled, he checked the clock, and it was nearly 7 a.m. He hurried to the hallway just as Beth emerged from Helen's room, her face as white as a sheet. After the police arrived, the quiet house that Lena and Roger had grown up in felt strange. It was as if the walls themselves held secrets, and each family member carried a hidden burden. The sun filtered through the windows, casting long, distorted shadows on the floor, adding an uneasy, surreal feeling to the home. Detective Inspector Walsh and Sergeant Foster, in their dark suits, seemed like intruders, unsettling the once familiar halls. As the morning went on, Lena tried to compose herself, though her thoughts spun wildly. Her mother's sudden death had shaken her, not just from grief, but also from the guilt and anger she felt. The empty bottle of sleeping tablets found in her room gnawed at her conscience. Why had it been there? Who had placed it there? The questions pulsed through her mind, accompanied by the lingering hurt over her complex relationship with her mother. Lena quietly observed the detective as they methodically interviewed each family member, unearthing old resentments and hidden motives. There was a creeping sense that something was wrong. Was this truly an accident, or did one of them bear responsibility? Roger, meanwhile, felt a numb emptiness standing by his father's office window, looking out onto the garden his mother had loved so much. The greenery, the blooms, the gentle curve of the path, all were reminders of his mother's presence, and now her absence. With every passing minute, he felt a growing suspicion that she might not have died peacefully. But his mind shied away from the idea that any of them could have harmed her. Yet the detective's questions brought him back to the harsh truth of their motives. As afternoon turned into evening, the house grew quieter. Each family member had been questioned, and whispers filled the air about what might have happened. Detective Walsh returned to the sitting room, his expression unreadable, as he addressed them as a group. "One thing is clear," he said, looking at each of them in turn. "Your mother's death wasn't as simple as it first appeared. We have reasons to suspect foul play." Lena clenched her fists, trying to keep her composure. Roger's face turned ashen, and Mark's typically steady gaze faltered. Glancing briefly toward the room, Albert simply sat with a pained expression, his hand on his wife's locket. After a pause, Walsh continued, I'll be returning tomorrow morning with further questions. I advise everyone to stay here and try to rest." The announcement was a hammer blow to the fragile peace in the house. The tension was palpable as each of them mulled over what the detectives might suspect and what they knew themselves. That night, sleep was elusive. Roger lay in his room, haunted by memories of his mother's stern gaze, her disapproval of his choices. Had he been too focused on his ambitions, too insistent on selling the house? The doubts gnawed at him, twisted his stomach into knots. His mother's last words to him had been of disappointment, words he would never have a chance to reconcile. Lena, in her room, lay awake, clutching a pillow as her mind drifted back to her mother's harshness. She remembered being a child, yearning for affection, and instead receiving criticism, expectations, and demands. Yet, she also remembered her mother's small acts of kindness, the times she had come to her defense against her father's harsh words. It had been a complex relationship, fraught with tension and unresolved pain. In the early hours, Lena, unable to bear the weight of her thoughts, left her room and wandered the hall. As she passed the doorway to the study, she noticed Roger inside, lost in thought. "You're still up?" she asked softly, stepping into the dimly lit room. Roger looked up, startled. Before managing a half smile, "Couldn't sleep," he replied. "Too many memories in this place."